Well, it looks like the U.S. Army is now being used to conduct infantry assaults on a park located in a major American city, a park filled with civilians. Specifically, the U.S. Fifth Army, operating under the command of Task Force 51, part of U.S. Central Command, were caught on videotape yesterday participating in a so called, quote, show of force on MacArthur Park, located in the heart of Los Angeles. Now, observers were stunned by the overtly militarized nature of the event, which involved federal agents in combat gear, body armor, and assault rifles, literally storming the peaceful lakefront location filled with civilians in broad daylight. Now, documents have been leaked from the U.S. Army that disclose a tactical planning for what is dubbed Operation Excalibur, which reveal a number of incredibly disturbing facts about how the U.S. military forces, indeed combat forces, have been unleashed onto American streets on behalf of Trump's radical and unlawful immigration agenda. Now, credit to Ken Klippenstein, a journalist who received the documents and disclosed their existence on his Twitter and Substack yesterday. Now, in this video, we will go through some of the documents themselves from a military perspective, and they amply demonstrate clear violations of the Posse Comitatus Act and how the U.S. Army is treating American cities like hostile foreign battlefields, which is a slide into authoritarianism and also creates a huge risk of escalation and civilian casualties. Now, first up, let's look at this Operation Excalibur executive summary. Now, the first thing you notice when you kind of read through this, it is like our military is referring to people in our country, civilians, as a hostile combat force, and as this entire operation is some kind of combat operation in a foreign country. Now, next, when you look under mission, it says that these forces, these Army military combat forces, will be at MacArthur Park to demonstrate through a show of presence the capacity and freedom of maneuver in the joint Los Angeles Joint Operations Area. Does that sound like how you would ever thought the U.S. government would be describing, an area of a major American city? And then under purpose, again, you see that the entire point of this operation was not to apprehend anyone, but instead to demonstrate federal reach and presence. Translated, that means it was an intimidation show of force operation. And finally, I want you to notice under key tasks, specifically item 4, it says do not engage in law enforcement activities. And the reason for this is simple. It would be a clear violation of the Posse Comitatus Act for federal military forces to engage in law enforcement activities unless the Insurrection Act has been triggered, which Donald Trump has not done because it is politically toxic for him to do so. But no matter what they call it, they're violating the act here. It is law enforcement activity, what they were doing. Now, next, let's look at this document called Concept of Operation. And you can see how, like, MacArthur Park is diagrammed like a combat area. And the term blocking position is used. There are military vehicles, including Humvees with mounted heavy 50 caliber machine guns listed. And what is a blocking position? Why does this matter? Well, think about it. This is how the DoD defines it: a defensive position so sited as to deny the enemy access to a given area or prevent the enemy's advance in a given direction. Well, who's the enemy here? It's American civilians in a damn park in the middle of the day in Los Angeles. Now, I ask you, is this how a democracy functions? How they refer to me and you as the enemy using combat forces? They've literally diagrammed a park filled with innocent people like some kind of counterterrorism operation. And then next, we have this threat situation document, which is really, truly unhinged. It describes something akin to Mogadishu or Beirut, rather than the middle of Los Angeles. It says that MS-13 has taken over defensive positions and fortified structures. Basically, what they're describing is residential buildings where families live, as if these are snipers' nests, and that there's a risk of organized use of small arms and shots of opportunity from these buildings. And then finally, we get to this document, MacArthur Park Background Update. And again, look at the way it describes the local community. It treats MacArthur Park as some kind of hostile military objective that has to be seized and conquered. And it paints with a broad brush everybody in that park on that day, in the middle of the day, in an American city, as like criminals engaged in crime. And finally, there's some other just ridiculous tidbits, like no fast rope insertion, like this is some Delta Force event. Also, it says no boats in the lake. Like, this is utterly farcical, as if they even need to say this. I think the conclusion to draw from all this is that this entire operation turned out to be a massive failure, and because of the various miscommunications between local law enforcement and federal agencies, the military showed up too late. But the point is that that this is a dangerous trend towards authoritarianism, towards using the military as an arm of the federal government against a civilian population that is already treating as a hostile opposing force. And you have to understand this in conjunction with the recent legislation passed through Congress That increases the budget of federal law enforcement to greater than that of the Israeli military. One could rationally take these events together and perceive this as an effort by Trump to gear up for further and greater repressions down the road. Thanks for watching.